Welcome, friends. Welcome to Live at Your Edge. This is Ashley. It's a sort of drizzly, gray Wednesday here, and I actually don't have a plan for this week's episode. I just wanted to come be here with you and just kind of see what happens. You know, there's a lot of advice out there in the world, in the ether, about how to create content. And a lot of that advice tells you not to do this. But I think that the thing that keeps showing up for me as I work with this project is that I honestly just really want to show up as authentically as I possibly can. And that takes practice. You know, I have to keep practicing what that looks and feels like for me, because even though, of course, I'm always bringing the intention to be authentic, it still takes practice to do that on camera and in front of a microphone. I feel like what I'm really feeling happening is that, you know, I started Live at Your Edge a few years ago now, in 2022, and it feels like the project has been kind of one thing up until this point. And it feels like what the project is asking to be is changing in some way, but I don't really know yet exactly what it's asking to be. I can feel it. I have the experiential, energetic threads of it, some of them coming. It's different. It feels different than what it was when I started it. And so I have to sit a lot with what is asking to happen. What am I feeling? What do I want to do? Because this project is about my desire. Honestly, the reason I'm doing this is because I want to. It's actually the only reason I'm doing it. And, you know, that's more of a pure for me now than it was actually in a way. I did it in the beginning because I wanted to do it 100%. But I think I was also sort of hunting for something in that experience. And at this point, as I'm a little older and I've grown more, it's just purely about the joy of creating it. There's no other. All the other things that come up don't feel like the real authentic thing. So they're there, you know. I have, of course, as a human, I still, of course, have interest in having people come to listen and having a certain amount of engagement with people. And I have those desires, but they're more I'm always trying to just remember to kind of hold them off to the side, because they don't really feel like the most authentic thing. You know, in the intervening time between when I closed season 2 before I started this season 3, there's been an enormous amount of I guess I'll say growth. It's inner exploration, right? What we're all doing. All of us that are growth oriented and are here. I know this is true for you because you're here in this space. That there's there's a way in which you're always living and feeling for what is the most true for you. What life do you really want to live? And what's calling in each moment? This is it's a way of living that I think anyone who is interested in a topic that has the words "live at your edge" in it, I think we're edge walkers. We're people who are seeking to expand our edges. And so, you know, this period was very much, I mean, a lot of things happened in this period, but some of it was honestly like death of certain parts of me, if that makes sense. Death of like, parts of the ego, really. Right? And I've been following this teacher that I may have mentioned on here before, Kyle Cease, that I found out about from Lauren, who was my co-host in season 1. Kyle loves to talk about the ego and like the different parts of the ego that we develop as ways of basically like adapting after something traumatic in our childhood. So like he talks about how in each of us there's often like the doer, the fixer, the figure outer, like the person in us that like deeply identifies as, I always figure things out. I gotta figure everything out to be safe, right? It's always based on keeping ourselves safe because of like early life trauma. Trauma, when I say trauma, I just mean, it doesn't mean that something really frightening or upsetting, like an event happened. That's one type of trauma, but there's so many kinds of trauma. And some of them are things like developmental trauma, including attachment trauma, which are things we've talked about attachment trauma on this show before, which is it's a type of trauma that happens from lots of like repeated little injuries. So it's not a big showy event. It's a lot of small things that happen over time where it's basically like a break in the bond between a caregiver and the child, where the caregiver is showing up in a way that doesn't meet the emotional needs of the child. It's not because the parent is neglectful, not necessarily, right? This could be a wonderful parent, but in that moment, the way the caregiver is showing up doesn't fully meet the emotional needs of the child. This is something that's inevitable to happen in a caregiver-child relationship. It happens to everyone. But these are encoded by our brains and nervous systems as trauma. So it creates the same kind of nervous system change as a result. And when those kinds of things happen, we all sort of rewire in certain ways more parts of ourselves as like a protective, adaptive mechanism to cope with the way that we were unsupported. We compensate and we develop these parts of ourselves to keep that part of ourself that felt unsafe, safe. And so some of this shows up as the, overachiever, or the person who has to fix everything, or the person who's constantly hunting for answers and figuring everything out. There are these overactive parts of our ego. And again, they're adaptive. They're developed adaptively. But then when we become adults, we don't always really need these parts anymore to keep us safe. Now we can reparent ourselves. We can take care of our own emotional needs, right? Unlike when we're children, we really rely on our caregivers for that. I love how he talks about this because it's amazing how deep these parts of our identity go. And I have personally found that working with Kyle and his content, there's an enormous amount of like deep self-inquiry that can be done, and parts of the self that can be sort of brought up into the light and looked at, right? Like, and like the reason I bring this up is because as part of the process of learning from him, for me, I feel like there's just been a lot of pieces of myself that have had to come up so they could basically die. And one thing that happened for me over the course of 2025 is that trying to figure out how to explain this, it's like I followed these teachings to a point where I had pared away everything, really, and I felt like, so all these pieces are gone. There's no achiever anymore. There's like, so I just felt like I was just sitting still in my life, being in what he calls the now, right? He always talks about like the now is everything. There's only the now. And like the more we can be in the now, this is totally his language. The more we can be in the now, the more fully and richly we basically experience God. And when you really practice this stuff, or when I got to this point where I just felt like I was very content to just be, not to be anything, do anything in the world. I felt like I could literally be still in the world and just be with my family, live my life quietly in my house, and never do anything, never have another job, never do any more work like in the external world, never do anything. And I would live and die happily. You know, I felt like I'm totally fine with just being. And it was a really beautiful place to be, but there was like this niggling in my mind about like, well, so then why does anyone do anything? Like, why does Kyle do anything? I couldn't figure it out. If he's in this state all the time, like why does he run his business? Why, like if he's just purely in the now and there's no other agendas. I like could not figure out this problem. I sat with this for weeks. I mean, honestly, it was months. Completely confused. Why does anyone do anything? If we're just going to be in the now, there's no point. Unless you absolutely had to, right? Unless you literally had to survive. Why does anyone go out and do anything? And then one day it finally dawned on me. And it was so funny because I felt like I just literally burst out laughing when I realized it, because I was like, it's so obvious. Like, how has it taken me months to figure this out? But it was because all of my old wiring had like dismantled. I mean, not all, right? But like in this particular area, my old wiring and way of like orienting to everything had completely fallen apart. And so I was like, I literally couldn't figure anything out anymore. I was like, I don't understand. But then I realized, why do people do anything? Oh, it's because joy. It's joy. That is the reason to do things. From joy. From joy. I mean, because they want to. They want to do these things. And it can be like purely from wanting to. No other agenda, not because we need to be well known, not because we need to have people see our greatness, not because we need to feel useful, not because we need to prove something to ourselves or to others, right? None of this stuff. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with any of those things, but I think Kyle's teaching would be that those reasons are coming from like a wound inside, a deep one that has to do with our self-worth, basically, and that formed sometime in our early life. And so only when those things shed can we come from a place that's like so pure. It's just like pure, the sheer joy of doing things without any attachment to the outcome. How successful, quote unquote, we are, what people think of us, how many positive comments we get from people about what we're doing, how much people seem to respect us and admire us. Like, none of that stuff matters anymore because it's only purely about the joy. And oh my God, I mean, it was like the most amazing moment because it was both such a like epiphany, and it was also the most hilariously, absurdly simple thing where I felt like so ridiculously silly. I want to use the word dumb, but I don't really mean dumb. I just mean like, how did I not know that? Like, it seems so obvious. But once that happened, like this happened to me over the course of like basically the entirety of 2025. Like it took a really long time from like I don't know, February or April or something like that, all the way into like November. And that was when I knew I wanted to start the show again. And it makes me tear up, actually, because first of all, I'm just so happy that I get to be here with you. With you. I don't know who you are exactly, but I see you, and I love getting to come on here and just be with you. That like connection that's possible through a camera, through a microphone, two different human beings in different places and maybe at different points in time, but we connect through space and time in this moment. And I think that is the most beautiful thing about this era of technology that we're in, that is possible. We've all experienced it so many times now over the last years, ever since things have gotten more digital and more things are remote. We all get to have this experience. I just think that it's so cool, and it humbles me. But the other reason is that I've never done something purely from joy before. There was always other like little agendas in there. Do you know what I mean? There was just always something else that was part of it. Even if I didn't want it to be part of it, it was. Like I couldn't help it. So it's not to like criticize myself. It just was true. And there's such an excitement that I have about getting to be here, even though like I have no idea what I'm doing. I have never been a content creator before this. And like I'm having to learn the ropes in real time. Like this season is a huge challenge for me. I've never recorded myself on video before. I'm having to figure out all this random stuff. But like I think the point that I was ultimately wanting to get to is that I feel like it's really important for me to just do this in real time and show up, even though I don't know what I'm doing, even though I didn't have a topic to talk with you about today, even though I don't know what the show is going to become, even though I can feel that it's changing. Because the truth is, I figure it out by doing it. I have to actually do it and learn as I go. So, and honestly, it's really fun. It's really fun for me to get to figure out how to record myself on camera. What equipment do I need? Like, what equipment can I get away with? What do I actually need and what do I actually not need? What like feels good to create but doesn't come through the way I want? What doesn't feel good to create but sounds okay? Like where are all these lines? I'm just having to figure that out in myself as I go, and it's really fascinating. It's like a whole sphere that I've never explored before, and I care about just being myself with you. I don't really actually think that you have to believe that I know what I'm doing completely to trust that the things that I bring through are valuable. I think you can tell if they're valuable to you yourself through just your own intuition. Either the things that I say resonate for you and feel like they carry a truth that is important and valuable and enhances your life in some way, or they don't. And if they don't, that's perfect. There's no need for you to take it in, right? Like it's your own sovereign choice. And so I don't think that me saying that I've never, done a video podcast before, like, means that you can't trust me. I just think it means that I've never had a video podcast before. So it really does feel good to be this way with you. This not necessarily having a topic. It's not what I'm going to do every single time, because I think there are so many topics I want to talk about, and I want to bring good information to you, and I want to bring, there are a lot of things that will take some preparation and will take a little bit of research on my part and some deep thought and meditation and prayer for me to feel for what I want to bring through and to make sure that it comes through in a high quality way. But it does also feel just really nice to just be together. I think I already mentioned in episode 1, a couple episodes ago, this thing that all these spiritual teachers are talking about now, which is that this era that we're moving into now, that we're on the threshold of right now, is one in which there is a lot more. The moment is asking of us more of our beingness, more of like how we are in the world, more than what we do. It's about how we can be, how we be instead of what we do. This feels like it somehow ties into that thread. Do you know what I mean? Let's just take a breath together for a moment. I'm kind of regrounding into myself. Maybe you want to too. This is an exhilarating ride for me. I'm really honored that you're here. With that, I just want to thank you so much for being here. I'll see you on the next episode.